What does the future hold? Maybe I can Pokemon this shit. Blast him or we're both gonna die.
Welcome back, everyone. This will be my full Rick and Morty Season 6, Episode 5 video. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, I'm doing videos for all the episodes. Be sure to subscribe to get them. And careful for spoilers from the episode if you haven't seen it yet. We'll start at the beginning and just work our way through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs and WTF moments as we go along. The actual episode title is Final Desmithation, which is a reference to the Final Destination movie series, which are all about characters learning about their deaths, their final fates, and trying to avoid them, but failing to do so, like they usually wind up meeting their fates in ironic twists. And this episode is all about Rick and Jerry trying to stop a company from controlling fate using the Chaos Alien and its special fortune cookies that it creates. The episode is also basically like another Rick and Jerry episode. It felt like a pretty small episode compared to some of the others, just because it mostly took place inside this Goop facility that they were parodying. It was a big Gwyneth Paltrow Goop parody.
I made you a new candle. It's just for you. It smells like my taint, and it's gonna be.
You're too much.
The writer said that they intended for it to be similar to previous Rick and Jerry episodes where during the course of the episode they kind of become closer as friends, but by the end also kind of not, like they treat it like they're not friends even though they do kind of become closer. Like Rick getting pissed off at the end because all he had to do to stay invincible for the rest of his life was to not make any more friends for the rest of his life. But the sheer fact that he got pissed off means that he and Jerry actually did become friends, otherwise his fortune would still be unresolved and he would still be invincible. The family's clowned on him a whole bunch this season about that too, the whole idea that he really does care about them, but he's unwilling to admit it. The way they explain fate in the episode is that Rick says that it's like a probability field, except at the center is everything that is known, pulling everything that's unknown towards it. So for instance, when Jerry's fortune is unresolved in the episode, the closer that his mother gets to him in proximity, the more probable it becomes that he will eventually get with her. So that's why it just starts out with a couple texts, but then as she gets closer, more and more things happen, and they get closer and closer and closer towards the very end of the episode until Rick saves him. The actual opening scene takes place with the family at Panda Express, making a bunch of cultural jokes about how Panda Express is like the least Chinese restaurant you could go to in America. It also shows you that the family has been going to Chinese restaurants eating fortune cookies for a long time now. Rick said later that the company had been using this fortune cookie alien for the past 20 years, meaning that the family has probably had their fates altered a couple times because of fortune cookies previously. They make a bunch of TikTok jokes, which is mostly like old people making fun of young people for doing silly things on TikTok. Like TikTok is primarily a platform used by the youngest generation currently. Like the whole joke with the taxi song that the kids don't really understand why it's cool, they just think that it sounds good, but Rick reveals later in the episode that one of his favorite songs on his playlist is Angela's theme from Taxi. So like because he's old, he actually watched the TV show and likes the song in the correct context, but in the new context, the kids are just using it because it sounds good. They don't really understand what it means. It's also a bit of a callback to Summer's Die Hard episode when she hadn't seen the movie, so she didn't understand what it actually meant, and she just kind of made up the meaning as she went along. Like she just kept repeating the phrase die hard, until the end of the episode when she actually did learn what it meant because she read the story. They set up the whole post-credit scene joke with the bit about Jerry being confused by the way they put animal food in gumball-looking machines in the zoo. They even have what almost seems like a fourth wall break from Morty when he acknowledges the joke that they're making with the fake commercial at the zoo about them being in a human zoo and zebras being the ones who are really in control. Like, we're the ones that are in the zoo. Also, side note, Jerry also reveals that he gets diarrhea every time they go to water parks. We'll see if they pay that off in a future episode and the family actually goes to a water park. One of the early jokes here about the fortune cookies is that most of them are generic and repeated, like all fortune cookies are kind of like this. Later, the old man explains that that's actually part of a larger fortune that the Fortune 500 company got to dilute the market with a bunch of fake fortunes so that the real fortunes became more potent. They introduced the whole joke about Jerry doing it with his mother, which the old man also explains was part of his cry for help, which they pay off by saying that he created a bunch of different types of fortunes in an attempt to try and get people to come help him. The first batch of fortunes were more literal, the consequence being that people would break their legs if they didn't come investigate this company, implying that a bunch of people broke their legs. The next one with the fortunes that said that a virus would shut down the world is actually a joke about the virus in real life, shutting everything down with the lockdowns during 2020, and because no one came to help him, it's implying that the fortune cookies were responsible for the big virus in 2020. Then he said his last attempt was to create a bunch of ones that said people would do it with their mothers, and the joke is that Jerry's the only person who actually showed up, meaning that a bunch of other people actually got with their mothers, which is a big Oedipus joke complex, because later they also turn it into a Morty thing when he talks about dressing as Morty because Beth is his wife, implying that Morty might also want to get with Beth deep down inside.
Why are you dressed like Morty?
Because Morty's mom is Beth.
I'm not unpacking that.
This is also the first episode to bring back Jerry's mother since season 1, like we haven't seen her in a long time. But if you remember, one of the jokes of that episode was that she had a secret lover on the side, and her husband, Jerry's biological father, would sit in the closet and watch them while he was dressed up as superheroes. So Jerry already comes from a very spicy family. He makes another Sleepy Gary Total Recall reference to season 2 when he says that his gag reflex has been messed up because of his time with Sleepy Gary. That means exactly what you think it means. He got down and dirty with Sleepy Gary big time. But if you remember, we saw in the previous episode that he actually was getting with other versions of himself, just like Beth was, so we already knew that Jerry was bi. I think of that one as like the Loki episode because it's them getting with other versions of themselves. Beth asking him not to tell Summer is also her not wanting to give Summer another eating disorder. Like, Summer already has a whole bunch of stuff going on with her, a whole bunch of problems, but I don't think she actually has an eating disorder right now. Rick mentions the X-Files. They reveal Summer's TikTok account is SummerSong69, which is a 69 DTF joke, like Summer is super horny. But it's also a reference to the song she sang with the Tinkles character, also from the Sleepy Time Gary episode Total Recall. There were a couple references to that episode during this one. This screen of the phone is from Morty's phone, so we find out he's got the other family members on it, of course. He's got Noob's number still. Brent is a person in real life who works on the animation crew. He's got Mr. Poopy Butthole. He's got April, which I think is meant to be a callback to the April Fool's joke, which was season 3, episode 1. They aired it on April Fool's Day. The Justin person is Justin Roiland, so like the joke is that he actually calls Justin Roiland in real life. And the whole idea that Justin is the actual voice of the Morty character. The Wilder person is a reference to Wilder Reese, who's another crew member working on the series. So the joke here is kind of like Morty calling the people who actually make Rick and Morty episodes controlling the story. There are also a couple fourth wall breaks from Rick in the episode where he acknowledges them being inside a television episode. But he's known that he's been inside a television show for a long time now. The whole thing that's going on here with the family clowning on Jerry, they said that they wanted Rick to feel like Jerry deserved his help because he didn't like the idea of the family forcing him to do something he didn't want to do, and it's just an example of Rick actually being Jerry's friend without totally admitting it. But once he does this, he does find out that something really weird is going on, and it turns into the actual plot of the episode. You also notice when Rick is walking past them with the towels in his hand, that's just paying off the joke about him having to do his own laundry finally because he doesn't have portals to steal fresh clothes from other versions of himself. You notice Space Beth comes back again, which is a big surprise. I wasn't expecting her back for a while. I guess they weren't kidding when they said that she'd be coming back a lot this season. Also, Space Beth makes it sound like she visits zoos in outer space for fun, like she says the Earth version of the zoo, as if she goes to other zoos that are not on Earth. His probability detector looks a lot like the detector from Ghostbusters, but he's also used this one in the series before too. Rick also reveals that it's equally possible for him to become both a dolphin or a balloon version of himself, so we'll see if they pay that off in a future episode where we see a balloon Rick in a dolphin Rick. He also implies that he hates Panda Express because he's never said to another human being that he wants to go to a Panda Express. They pay off the Taxi theme song joke when they reveal that his favorite song on his playlist is Angela's theme from the Taxi show. Like I said, the whole joke with the kids' TikTok song is that they hadn't actually seen the series, so they didn't know the song in its original context. It's like Rick getting mad at the kids for not appreciating the song the way that he thinks that they're supposed to appreciate it. The whole joke with Rick and the drug dealers here, him being cool with them, is another joke about his ongoing feud with the Earth government and the Earth president. He hates both of them, so he doesn't mind if anyone does anything illegal. He breaks the fourth wall again when he references himself being inside a television episode story. He's done this before, like I said. He's known that he's been a fictional character for a long time now. I'm not sure if the guns he's using here are specific references to anything. Usually his guns on the show, like his weapons, are references to video game weapons. So if you think you recognize them, just write below in the comments. The big bad in the episode is meant to be a big Gwyneth Paltrow Goop reference. Her name in the episode is Gwyneth Paltrow Chunt. The wordplay with that last little part of her name is exactly what you think it is. Her headquarters building here is meant to be sort of like a fortune cookie reference, but I also think it's kind of meant to be a reference to the Sailor Moon Millennium Castle because of the big Sailor Moon reference after this. Rick makes a big Sailor Moon magical girl transformation joke about how he saves money by them using the Sailor Moon effect to change their clothes multiple times. which itself is a reference to real life when animation companies reuse animation in episodes to save money. Like, this isn't just an anime joke. Regular Western cartoons are famous for reusing animation to save money. And the whole idea in previous seasons is that one of the reasons why Rick and Morty seasons took so long to come out is because the animation on Rick and Morty is so much more complex than other series. They reuse far less of it than other cartoons do. And recently, Dan Harmon has basically said, oh, we won't have big breaks anymore. We worked out a lot of those kinks. So in the episode when Rick says, look at all the money we're saving, it's also another joke about how quickly they're getting seasons out one year after the other without huge breaks anymore. He makes a Sesame Street Cookie Monster joke. The Fortune 500 logos on everything is just a reference to the actual real-life Fortune 500 index with the 500 most valuable companies at any given moment. When Rick starts showing off his enhancements, like all the stuff that he's got inside his body, that's meant to be an Inspector Gadget reference, which he's made previously on the series. But the other joke here is that he's got really high-tech weapons and low-tech weapons and some magic-based weapons too. Like, one of them is just a broken bottle, the other one is a voodoo doll. When he says, I have Thundara, that's a big Thundercats reference, another 80s cartoon. Most of the fortunes that they walk past on the index and the walls here are just like the generic fortunes, but one of them says, you like Chinese food, which feels like one of the real fortunes, like it's trying to force people to enjoy Chinese food. Even though in real life, I actually do like Chinese food. Like, Chinese food is actually pretty good. When they're getting on the elevator, one of these fortunes also says, you'll receive help in your time of need, which is basically exactly what's happening to Jerry in this episode. Rick is helping him in his time of need. Then I think the joke here with the Goop company and all the celebrities trying to pay money to get to higher tiers and greater levels of understanding within the organization is also more of a Scientology joke on top of all the Goop jokes. They imply Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, a bunch of other prime ministers around the world, and Billy Zane are part of it for some reason. Like, all the richest, most powerful people in the world are buying into this company because a lot of really powerful people are Scientologists in real life. The whole joke about her eating ramen out of a toilet in her parents' garage 15 years ago is that in real life, Gwyneth Paltrow's acting career kind of stalled out in the early 2000s about 15 years ago. Also in real life, her father is insanely wealthy. Like, she comes from this really wealthy family, basically growing up a princess. So that's one of the reasons why they're clowning on her so hard in the episode. Like, she's a rich person who got even richer with her Goop company. Rick also reveals that he's had sex with Jerry's mom already. Then I think this is the first time that we've actually seen this particular alien on Rick and Morty, but he calls it a Ligurian, which eats chaos, but it has a digestive disorder, which is what they're using to create the fortune cookies and these fortunes to influence people's fates. He also breaks the fourth wall again to tell everyone that they've been eating alien poop every time they eat fortune cookies. And like I said, Rick says that they've been using this alien for the past 20 years, meaning that the family, who's eaten Chinese food in fortune cookies in the past 20 years many times, have probably had their fates influenced multiple times in their past. When he pulls up the generic fortunes here, Happy Feet and People Like Me are actually names of movies. Rick makes another Nintendo reference when he says portable VR headset. That's more of a Virtual Boy reference, but it's also part of a long-running Nintendo thing that Justin Roiland works into Rick and Morty episodes because he is a huge Nintendo fan in real life. So anytime Rick rants about Nintendo in episodes, that's usually Justin Roiland working that into episodes. For example, another callback to that same Total Recall episode, that's where he did his more famous Nintendo rant. That particular reference, they said, was actually from real life because Justin Roiland literally came into the Rick and Morty writers' room when they were working on that episode, and Rick's rant is exactly word for word the rant that Justin Roiland burst into the room talking about that particular day. The old man sounds like he was actually voiced by Alex Hirsch, who does a lot of voiceover cameos on the DL on animated series, but usually he gets credit for that, and I couldn't find his name in the credits. Rick kind of breaks the fourth wall again when he references how on the nose the old man character is inside this particular story. When he says the character is Arch, what he means is extremely obvious or a forced reference to something. The whole joke about him wanting to get married to the animal, I think it's just meant to be a reference to the Margaret Howe dolphin joke later in the episode. She was a conservationist that tried to teach dolphins how to speak, and one of the dolphins that she raised was famously super horny, so at the time, Hustler magazine published a story joking about that, so her getting with the dolphin is just a reference to that. The curvy bullets, I think, are meant to be a reference to the Wanted movie. He makes a Pokemon reference when he talks about using the fire person against the water person, and all their powers are meant to be ironic, like he pulls water from a person's body, killing him, the other guy's body sticks to walls, but his internal organs do not, so they get sucked out. The person who can't be killed can still feel all the pain. When Rick eats all the random fortunes, one of them reveals that he's got a secret crush who will call him at some point, so keep an eye out for anybody that calls Rick in future episodes. The make a new friend fortune is a reference to the unresolved fortune that Jerry resolves at the end of the episode. Like, at this moment, he becomes invincible. This guy is a Grimlock Transformers Dinobot reference. And even though this is just kind of like a funny moment, I love that this guy turns into a sentient teleprompter and his reaction turns into the script on the screen. They explain the Gwyneth Paltrow character's unresolved fortune is that she'll become the world's most successful businesswoman. The bigger joke is that that would never happen, like her lifestyle brand would never be the world's most successful company, so she just basically becomes invincible for the rest of her life, until Rick uses his hacking skills to make her company the most successful company on paper, but then taking it right back, making her company worthless. When she transforms into the monster here, this is an Akira reference. And when he sits dead center on the alignment chart, that means he's true neutral, as in he's just as likely to do bad things as good things, he's just as likely to be chaotic as he is lawful ordered. He makes a reference to Leonardo DiCaprio being dead inside ever since he won an Oscar for The Revenant several years ago. And then Rick using his last remaining fortune to save Jerry further implies that they are friends, resolving his other fortune to keep his invincibility. And they end the episode playing the same Angelus theme Taxi song from earlier. The actual post-credit scene, like I said, is just them paying off the joke about people eating zebra food, but turning it into a larger thing, like revealing that they are secretly inside a zebra zoo. Like they're human animals inside a zoo, and the zebras are the ones who are really in control. Also, the person in the hat in the background here seems like he's been in previous episodes. I can't remember which crew member this is a reference to. I think it's meant to be a reference to someone specifically. If you think you know who it is, just write below in the comments. If you spotted any other Easter eggs and references in the episode that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments, and my full Rick and Morty episode 6 video will post next week after they release it. There's a whole bunch of big stuff coming this week. Make sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss it. Everyone click here for my House of the Dragon episode 8 video, and click here for my brand new Black Panther Wakanda Forever trailer video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.